Aloha, everybody. I'm Eva Andrade, and on this episode of Faith in Politics, we are going to be finalizing our survey, and you're going to find out exactly what the community said about pastors and churches over this past year. And of course, as always, we've got the world according to Jim. So let's chat about that. Do you ever have one of those dreams that you're running away from something and you have absolutely no idea what it is you're running away from? And in that dream, you're also thwarted from ever reaching a place of safety. For me, the recurring nightmare is driving on a one-way street with a raging ocean on both sides in heavy rain, and I have no idea if I'm going to make it. And every single time I have that dream, I wake up panicking, and I'm hoping that it's just a dream, and thank God it is. So over the past week, I've had the privilege of talking with people who kind of feel that way right now. They know that they're moving forward with the flow, so to speak, but they have no idea where they're going or what it's going to look like when they get there. Of course, I'm talking about the onslaught of the news every single day. No matter who you are, you're trying to navigate the source and decide if what you're hearing is the truth. And once you pick a side, you polarize yourself from the other half, and the cycle begins all over again as they begin to bombard you with articles and all the proof of the truth that they have on the research on their side of the issue. I am the way, the truth, and the life, Jesus says. He is the way, living our lives the way he exemplified. Christians and non-Christians alike can lead good lives and be good people. But Jesus himself is the way. No one comes to the Father but by me. And that's John 14:6. He is the truth. Quid est veritas? So what is truth? One of our comments on the survey said that very thing. Even Pilate in John 18:38 took the opportunity to try and trap Jesus by asking that question. Jesus did not take the bait. I'm not a theologian, but I will say that the truth is never a lie. He is life. Life comes from eternal promise of what comes after. It's what we believers look forward to in this world when we breathe our last. There is a promise yet to come. When I think about my nightmare, I try each time to picture Jesus walking over these monster waves and beckoning me to stand and mosey on over to right where he is. And that, my friends, is a work in progress. I recently stated in a meeting that right now we're living in a world of crazy, and the people present at the meeting laughed and they agreed that that's exactly where we are today. The only cure for insanity is sanity. And you can't find sanity if you are driving down a one-way road with storm waves battering you from every side. There's only one way you can survive a storm, by standing under the protection of the only one who can calm it. And that's my thoughts for this week. Welcome to the show again, Mr. Jim Hochberg, attorney at law, our great contributor of faith and politics and law. Yeah, you. Talking to you.
Hi, good morning.
Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fabulous. You know, I actually was in, and you're like on the 20-something floor, and the walls were all glass. And we were talking about Peter walking on the water, and I asked everybody, I said, if Jesus appeared out there and told us to open the window and walk out, would you?
And everybody said, of course I would.
Well, no, we all said, well, how do you know it's really Jesus? Because Satan's the liar. I mean, it was kind of fun.
Well, see, and I think that's kind of what I was thinking about in my thoughts. You know, it's like right now you can be battered on an issue from both sides with facts and science, right? That's what we're hearing. You got to follow the science, Jim. That is important. If you're not following the science, then we can't have a good conversation. But the problem is, where is the science coming from? And who is the source?
So I follow Jesus, and he didn't follow science. Science says Lazarus was make. So I follow Jesus.
Okay, that's a good place to follow. So what I want to start with, obviously, you know, in the second half of the show today, we're going to be finalizing the results of the Hawaii Family Forum survey. And what I thought I might do in this first segment with you, Jim, is I'd like to get your thoughts on a survey that Barna released in the end of 2019. Now, we're not going to go into the details of the survey, but basically what they did is they wanted to find out from people how they felt going to church and then how they felt when they were leaving church. And it was interesting that...
Let me guess. Going into church, the husbands and wives and kids had just been screaming at each other in the car. And then coming out of church, they felt much better.
Actually, there are some really good memes on the internet about that very thing, if you're bored and you have nothing to do. So the good news of the survey was that 2/3 of the churched adults, so these are the ones that actually their bodies go into the building, feel encouraged after worship services. And that was about 82%. So I thought that was interesting because shouldn't you feel encouraged? I mean, you would think that if you're going to a place that is providing hope, that is how you're going to feel when you're walking out the door.
Okay.
Okay. So, and then they also said the bad half the bad is that half of the churched people feel disappointed after church, at least sometimes. So
that must make the preachers feel really bad.
Well, yes. And I think that kind of what we're moving into today is how do people really feel about the role that their pastors play in the politics of the world, right? Because as you saw in our survey, there were a lot of people who made comments that they felt that their pastor didn't do enough to fight against what was happening to them, or what they felt, the lockdowns, right? The church should have risen. And then there were other people who felt like that the church and pastors need to be very concerned with their communities. And if that means locking down to do so, then they did the right thing.
And the line seemed to be who the speaker on the survey comment, who they believed the truth was, going back to your opening, because we get these messages from different sources that are like polar opposite information on things that are supposed to be facts.
Well, and here's the thing. You and I do this for a living. Right. You're an attorney, so you're in a whole...
I deal with evidence and facts and law.
Right.
Correct.
So, and you and I have great conversations all the time, sometimes heated, because I'll think something and you'll prove me wrong by the fact side, and I'm moving from the heart side. And I guess that's what makes this show really good, is that...
Did you just say that I'm heartless? Wow.
I did not say that. Roll the tape. Roll the tape. Okay. So
you know why lawyers are really good 6 feet down? Somewhere down there they have a heart.
Ah, okay. So what I wanted to tie in before we move into your segment, and then we're going to move into the survey, is right now the faith-based community is really up in arms because of the lockdown. And as you know, because you had your own personal lawsuits about the emergency orders, our governor, Ige, is about to sign a bill on emergency orders. And there is all kinds of information flying all over the place, asking people to rise to action, make phone calls. And you have some thoughts about that, and I'd like you to share.
So this week, I have probably had communications with 50 people at different times.
I've gotten some of those emails as well.
Emails, phone calls,
text messages
on this Senate Bill 540, which passed the legislature and was already submitted to the governor. And people are sending the very same text message to me, 50 different people, okay? Which means it's all coming from the same source. And there are several reasons that I wish people would stop forwarding that message, because first of all, they're all too late. They're all too late. The way the legislative process works is you need to be involved in January when the bills come out so that you are aware of them by bill number and you can sign up to get notice when it's going to actually have a hearing, because until it gets a hearing, it doesn't matter. Or they can simply sign up with Hawaii Family Forum and you will, If it's a Hawaii Family Forum bill, keep them informed.
Well, I think that's been part of the problem is Hawaii Family Forum didn't weigh in on this bill.
Well, it's not one of the issues for HFF.
It's not one of the issues of Hawaii Family Forum, but I think it does tie into when people in the church are upset, right? And they feel that their voice has been silenced for so long that, it's kind of like a pressure cooker, right? We talked about a pressure cooker several shows ago. When things are building, and suddenly they have that release, what can happen is exactly, I believe what's happening right now is maybe they're using this as a vehicle to raise their voice because they're so upset about everything. But you have an issue specifically about this.
Because in addition to the fact that the whole legislative process is over, the bill has passed and it's being given to the governor.
And he's made no.
Well, he has three choices. He can sign it, he can veto it, or he can do nothing, and it becomes the law.
And he's not given any indication that he's going to veto.
But here's the thing. Telling people from the faith-based community to go bother the governor to veto a bill, it hurts our credibility because it makes it look like we don't understand. And the most important thing is, this is like a 40-page bill. I have it right here. It's a 40-page bill. Hawaii Revised Statutes Chapter 127A is the whole statute chapter dealing with how the governor or the mayors can declare emergencies, what their powers are, what the scope of what they're allowed to do, that they can declare certain other statutes suspended, but that it's got to be within constitutional rights, what the penalties are for people who violate it. We just went through a year under this bill where more than 10,000 citations were given out for people violating the restrictions. You could get one for sitting on the beach. You could get one for swimming in the water.
And what was the price tag on that if you got busted?
But you could get one for a lot of different reasons. And there was one size fits all penalty, a misdemeanor criminal charge, which is huge because you could go to jail for up to a year, and or you could be required to pay a fine of up to $5,000. And in the process of this past year, the police department and the court system went to the legislature and said, you got to fix that because we were way overworked unnecessarily. Most of these things were thrown out because it was ridiculous. So what this bill is doing is only changing the fines. It's making it better for people who violate and get caught because instead of a year and $5,000, it can be an infraction, which is like spitting on the sidewalk. It's a nothing. Or it can still go from there with all these various steps up to a misdemeanor. The things that people are complaining about in this text are not being changed in this bill. It's already in the statute. Law. It's already been in the statute since 2014.
We've run into that before where people don't know how to read a bill that's moving through the legislature. So when
they have to read the chapter, not just the bill.
They've got a lot of work to do. So when we come back, we're going to peel back the veil to see what is happening in the mind of Jim Hochberg. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Tim Che. I'm the director of Interview with the Antichrist.
Riots and anarchy continue to spread across America as the world descends into chaos 3 years after millions disappear.
We're having a premiere Friday, April 30th at 6:30 p.m. Doors open at 6.
Alex peaceful protesting against horrible locusts in London. God help us.
To those who want to turn this into something.
It happened so suddenly. This man came to power.
And shh, keep it quiet. But if you say Carlo TV, we'll get you in. Okay, limit 4 guests. No children, no infants, please. You're going to love the film. It's an end times film, and it's one of our best reviewed films ever. So come Friday, April 30th, 6:30 p.m., and say Carlo TV.
It's no secret that Carlo TV is the only local Christian TV station, reaching the islands of Hawaii with 24/7 Christ-centered content. Just how important is Carlo TV to our culture?
Think about it. This year has been unprecedented. The pandemic lockdown, churches closed, religious freedom, a nation divided, cultural unrest. If there's ever a time that we need Christ-centered content, it is now.
Our community is struggling. Depression,
suicide, unemployment, lack of purpose. Many of us are without hope. In fact, some of us are considered non-essential.
Non-essential? That's absurd. In fact, there's never been a more crucial time that the church is essential. We have the hope of Christ, the answer for our time.
And Carlo TV is committed to broadcasting the good news across Hawaii.
And that's why we're reaching out even more to those in need of God's love. Here's how.
We're starting a new initiative called Carlo Outreach, where we're going into our local communities and becoming the hands and feet of Christ.
We continue to create new and original programs that will reach every generation with the hope of Jesus.
We are adding new local and international programs to Carlo TV. After all, it is our intention to be a bright light to Hawaii and beyond.
Look, it hasn't been easy for any of us. In fact, if you need prayer, we are here for you.
And if you need encouragement, please tune in, whether it's on air, online, or on social platforms. Our vision is to provide uplifting content.
Would you join us as we broadcast the good news? This is our opportunity to come together as a community.
Right now is a pivotal time to invest in Hawaii. First and foremost, let's pray together for Hawaii. And for those who are able to, here are some ways that you can give.
As we are that the sun will set tonight and rise again tomorrow morning, so is our hope in Christ.
Carlo TV, the Aloha station, broadcasting Aloha 24/7.
So welcome back to Faith in Politics. I'm Jim Hochberg. This is the segment where I get to talk about something that's been going around in my head, and I am. So you were talking about truth and being polarized in our community, and that polarization actually comes out in cancel culture. Because if you're on one side of the polarized discussion, the other side can cancel you.
Whoever the winner is.
Well, whoever actually the bully is. It's a bully thing, canceling people.
Interesting.
And everybody's not a bully. Half of the conversation is by non-bullies, and they're the ones that get canceled. But anyway, so I was looking at the news yesterday, and our local sources are claiming that the people who have questions about the COVID vaccinations are believing, essentially, they didn't use the term, but what struck me is fairy tales. That there's nothing wrong with these vaccines, and all these people who question it and stuff, they need to stop. And, you know, so I'm a lawyer. I deal in facts. I deal in evidence. And so we're going to look at some evidence, and we're going to find out what the facts really are. And hopefully the bullies on the cancel side of this will watch the show. They'll look at the evidence, and they will change their minds. We hope.
Okay.
So the issue is, should people be forced to get a COVID vaccine?
No.
And the article in the Star Advertiser quoted some people saying, no, it should be a personal choice and you shouldn't have to. And the editorial content of the news story was, oh, those are very bad people.
What was the percentage of yes to no?
Well, it wasn't a survey. It was just a discussion.
Oh, okay.
And so, okay, because I'm a lawyer and because I live now and not decades ago, I have a Googling computer, and so I was able to find the documents that have the facts. So December 18th, 2020, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration wrote a letter to Moderna TX Inc., and they sent one to Pfizer too. And this letter is in response to a request that the Food and Drug Administration issue an emergency use authorization for emergency use of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. So this is the actual government letter telling Moderna what the requirements are going to be.
So Pfizer would have got one.
Pfizer got one too.
Johnson & Johnson would have gotten.
And I can read all three of them, but they're all the same, so I'm not going to bother.
I just want people to understand that this is the same letter that went to anybody.
Although they were on different days.
Right.
And they had different things in them because, for instance, Moderna is a 2-shot vaccine. But so on page 4, by the way, just so people have an idea, the letter's 9 pages long.
Okay.
And so on page 4, the letter says the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine is authorized for emergency use with the following product-specific information required to be made available to vaccination providers and recipients, respectively referred to as, quote, authorized labeling. Now, if you've ever gotten a prescription, you get all this paperwork and you throw it away. Nobody reads it.
Not me. I read it.
I don't read it.
I read it.
Because I get the same medication gets renewed all the time. I know what it is. I don't really care. Anyway, so there's 2 things that have to be on this fact sheet. There has to be a fact sheet for healthcare providers administering the vaccine, and the fact sheet recipients and caregivers emergency use authorization has to be given. So I got the fact sheet, okay? Here's what it says. Fact sheet for recipients and caregivers emergency use authorization for Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. Number 1, Moderna is required to tell you this. Star advertiser, get your facts. There is no U.S. Food and Drug Administration FDA approved vaccine to prevent COVID-19. That's a fact because the approval is for the emergency use authorization. We talked about it last week.
Right.
We're still in the experimental study. Number 2, got to tell you, the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine is administered as a 2-dose series 1 month apart. What is that vaccine? The Moderna COVID-19 vaccine is an unapproved vaccine that may prevent COVID-19. There is no FDA-approved vaccine to prevent COVID-19. Number 2, the FDA has approved the emergency use of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine to prevent COVID-19 in individuals 18 years of age and older under an emergency use authorization. These are facts. This has to be given to everybody that gets a vaccine.
And again, the date of this letter?
This was December 18th.
Of 2020.
Yeah. This
is recent.
This was the FDA approval for Moderna to get the experiment out of the trials and into the people.
So Pfizer, which is being used here so that's being used right here in Hawaii. So Pfizer would have received a letter exactly like this.
And this is the fact sheet that Moderna has to give you when you go get your vaccination.
So for people in Hawaii, if they're getting the Pfizer shots, should they be getting this information?
They should be getting this information. And my bet is they're not. It's probably pinned up on the wall so that everybody that walks by can read it. But anyway, it goes on.
Okay.
So the question on the fact sheet that gets answered, has the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine been used before? The Moderna COVID-19 vaccine is an unapproved vaccine. We know that it's a 2-shot vaccine. In clinical trials, approximately 15,400 individuals 18 years of age and older have received at least 1 dose of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. Why didn't they get 2 doses? It's a 2-dose vaccination. I don't know. Next, what are the benefits of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine? In an ongoing clinical trial, when you get your shot, you're in the clinical trial. The Moderna COVID-19 vaccine has been shown to prevent COVID-19 following 2 doses given 1 month apart. The duration of protection against COVID-19 is currently unknown. This is in the fact sheet. This is what their approval letter said they had to tell you before you get it. So Star Advertiser, quit canceling people that happen to have the facts, okay? Next, what if I decide not to get the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine? It's your choice to receive or not receive any of the
I'm sorry,
vaccine.
say that again. Because
it is your choice to receive or not to receive. Should you decide not to receive it, it will not change your standard of medical care.
Wait.
Let's not have any passports on this baby.
I was going to say, do they? Okay.
Next.
Interesting.
Are other choices available for preventing COVID-19 besides the Moderna vaccine? Currently, there is no FDA-approved alternative vaccine available for prevention of COVID-19 Other vaccines to prevent COVID-19 may be available under emergency use authorization. Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, blah, blah, blah. Can I receive the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine with other vaccines? That's a very good question. There is no information on the use of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine with other vaccines.
Of course,
why wouldn't they say no?
Well, I would highly doubt that anybody would go, hey, I want to take all of the vaccinations just to be sure. That's a little weird.
But they should say, no, you shouldn't take more than one because we haven't tested them together.
Well, you would think.
But anyway.
You would think.
Where will my vaccination information be recorded? This has to be told to you. The vaccination provider may include your vaccination information in your state, local jurisdiction's Immunization Information System, IIS, or other designated system. This will ensure that you receive the same vaccine when you return for the second dose. For more information about it, they give you a website. What is the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program? Did you know that there was one?
I do now.
I didn't hear about this in any of the coverage. You know, all those TV commercials? Oh, pushing my kid on the swing. I can't wait till my little 3-year-old can get her vaccine. Well, there is. Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, CICP, is a federal program that may help pay for costs of medical care and other specific expenses of certain people who've been seriously injured by certain medicines or vaccines, including this vaccine.
Wait, that sounds like word salad to me. Well, what does that really mean? Certain, definition of certain.
It's like saying we don't know whether you should take more than one vaccine. I mean, come on, it's the lawyers.
Word salad.
Wrote this. But here's the thing. I haven't heard anybody say federal government's already got a compensation program to give you money. Do you know why? Because there's a no liability clause in the approval. Okay. The Moderna COVID-19 vaccine has not undergone the same type of review as an FDA-approved or cleared product. FDA may issue an emergency use authorization when certain criteria are met, which includes there's no adequate approved available alternative. So this is the fact sheet. The fact sheet is the fact, okay? So there is no reason to cancel people if they don't agree with some other group's desire that everybody get vaccinated. Everybody doesn't have to get vaccinated.
And here's the thing. If somebody, after reading all that and understanding it, chooses to get the vaccination, that's fine if they've made that choice to do that for themselves.
And now they know there's a compensation fund if it doesn't go well.
That's what I think. I think that's important information. And I have not heard that anywhere. I don't know that it's been printed anywhere, but maybe you're hearing it for the first time on this show. And if that's the case, we give thanks to Jim Hochberg and what's happening in his brain that he actually put that out there for people. And maybe if people are getting vaccinated because they choose to get vaccinated, they should be talking to their doctors or whoever's administering the shot to make sure they're getting the information. Ask for that information. Ask for it.
Well, I think the government should be giving you, like that I vote sticker. They should give you the compensation website sticker when you get your vaccine, just in case you need it.
Well, I know people are putting it on their Facebook and their Twitter. They have their little pictures saying, I got vaccinated.
No, I don't mean the vaccination card. I mean the website for the compensation fund.
Well, I think it should be part of when you sign to go get your shot. You should sign that you received and understand. It
probably says I read the fact sheet, but they never gave it to you, so you never read it.
Well, for all of you that might be going out there and getting the vaccination, make sure that you're educating yourself on exactly what vaccination you're getting. Make sure that you are asking for this information that Jim has shared with you today. And if you are confused at all about taking the vaccination, make sure you're getting your information. So you're watching Faith in Politics. And when we come back, we're going to be jumping into the survey for Hawaii Family Forum. And we're going to find out how you felt about pastors and churches during the last year in the lockdown.
I love this show.
We'll see you in a minute.
Hey, I'm Tim Che. I'm the director of Interview with the Antichrist.
Riots and anarchy continue to spread across America as the world descends into chaos 3 years after millions disappeared.
We're having a premiere Friday, April 30th at 6:30 p.m. Doors open at 6.
Alex peaceful protesting against horrible locusts in London. God help us.
To those who want to turn this into something.
It happened so suddenly. This man came to power.
And shh, keep it quiet. But if you say Carlo TV, we'll get you in. Okay, limit 4 guests. No children, no infants, please. You're going to love the film. It's an end times film, and it's one of our best reviewed films ever. So come Friday, April 30th, 6:30 p.m., and say Carlo TV.
We have a mission here at Carlo TV. We continue to be the only local, Christ-centered media outlet in Hawaii. God has planted this station to nourish believers and to harvest souls for eternity. It's a calling we hold dear, and today we need your help. Partner with us as we continue to create original local programs.
We're so very grateful for that whole journey.
Walking down to our story room.
Oh my God.
So it's where the state cannot tell the church how to run their services, what songs to sing.
Showcase solid biblical teaching.
We reach more people in one day with the broadcast of the gospel.
It's music to God's ears.
Improve our infrastructure and influence social media. In these dark and disruptive times, there's never been a greater need to be rooted in God's Word. The Carlo plant has been a sustaining food in Hawaii for centuries, and Carlo TV aims to bring much-needed spiritual nutrition to these islands. Are you willing to labor with us for Hawaii, for your ohana, for the next generation? Go to carlotv.com and partner with us today.
Aloha, I'm Eva Andrade. I'm the president and CEO of Hawaii Family Forum. And Hawaii Family Forum has been serving the faith-based community right here in Hawaii since 1998. What we do is we identify like-minded people in the community, we educate them, we motivate them, and then we activate them, standing on the foundational principles of Micah 6:8, which says, "What does the Lord require of you but to love justice and to do mercy and to walk humbly with your God?" So join us at hawaiifamilyforum.org and let's make a difference right here in this beautiful state of Hawaii. Mahalo. Welcome back to Faith and Politics. As we get to the part of the show where I know everybody's been very interested about the last part of our survey, which is how people felt during the lockdown over the past year towards their church and their pastor. And you know, I think that along with Jim, we were relatively surprised at how well they did, but also how many comments were to the opposite of people thinking their pastor did a good job. So,
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So other than me, who was your we? You said we and Jim.
Oh, we and Jim?
When I used to say that, my mom would say, what, you and the mouse in your pocket?
No, it's me and my multiple personalities.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
So me and my few friends, because I only have a few. Okay, so let's do that, Jim. Let's talk about it. So we're going to be dealing with questions 4 and 5 of the survey. And again, what I want to do as we jump into this is remind everybody that this survey is not a scientific survey. We've never made that claim. We just asked the members of our community to answer questions on how they felt about everything.
And these questions are different than the questions that we did for everybody else. Like for everybody else, we said, gotta go, you know.
Right.
These questions were different.
We should have asked people, do you think your pastor gotta go? Your pastor has to go. Let's do that in the next survey. So, you know, I want to make that clear. I also want to be fair that I did the questions myself. I did not have a team of people. It was just something I wanted to do in the community.
The questions are great.
And we got a lot of feedback that people liked the questions. But once I released the comments, you're going to see that there were some people who took, they took offense to the questions. They didn't like it. But that's okay. I'm putting the information into your hands, and we will be posting this on the hawaiifamilyforum.org website, so you'll be able to see all of this for yourself. Survey was anonymous, so we don't know who said what, unless they took the time to call me, which some people did.
So you have been laboring mightily for a very long time, since you were probably 3. You know how to do this. You did a very good job. You don't have to apologize.
Not apologizing, just putting it out there.
Okay.
I want to be as transparent as possible. I'm not sorry I did it, and I will probably do it again. But people that work with me know that I always come from the place of wanting to give a voice to the faith-based community, because that's what we do. Again, make it very clear. We stand on gospel values. We will never give up what we believe is faith. Jesus Christ is who we stand for and stand next to and stand with. And that's where we're coming from. So question number 4, how well did your church handle the lockdowns? And the choices were, my church or pastor was stellar.
Correct. And there were 161 responses, which was 38%.
Okay, so 38% of our people felt their pastor and church was stellar. My church pastor did the very best they could in the circumstances.
And there were more responses on that, 173. So 12 more, and that was 41%.
Okay. My church / pastor could have done more. I'm a little bit disappointed.
That was 50 votes, 12%.
And my pastor / church shut down. I am seriously disappointed.
Only 41 people, 10%.
Okay, so when you add the last 2, which is the disappointed, that's 12% plus 10%. That's 22% of the people responding to the survey were disappointed in their church and pastor.
More than a fifth.
Yeah. So what did you notice in some of the comments that people were saying about this?
There were several religious liberty types in the comments that were not happy that their church, their pastor, was willing to allow the government to infringe religious liberty, which I happen to agree with. I tried mightily to find some pastors that would be clients without paying me for my services. I wanted to sue over the violations of the First Amendment, because unlike any other thing you can do at a store, at a restaurant, at a shopping mall, at a theater, none of those other business opportunities, public accommodation opportunities that you were not allowed to go to, they don't have constitutional protection. Only the church, only the First Amendment protects religious liberty. So being treated the same or worse than Macy's really bugged me. And I actually spent a considerable amount of time trying to get pastors that I know to be willing to be the plaintiff to go forward and make the lawsuit, and none of the pastors wanted to do it. Now, to be fair, I think it was during the period of time that everybody actually believed that the facts were highly contagious, everybody's going to get it, highly deadly, everybody's going to die. So I think the pastors didn't want to sacrifice the lives of their flock for a legal point. So I get that. In hindsight, it didn't turn out to be so correct.
Well, yeah. And one of the comments, and I'll see if I can find it while you're sharing, but one of the comments talked about that, basically, and now I'm paraphrasing because I'm not looking directly at it, but they said basically, we need to cut them a little bit of slack because this was the first time that something like this ever happened. And for both the politicians and the leaders and the church leaders, this was new. How do you handle this?
We trusted them.
Right.
And I don't think the trust level will ever go back up to where it was.
Absolutely. And I think that's where a lot of people, and also we got people who strongly supported the way their pastors handled it. There were some comments that said that pastors went above and beyond to make sure the church was a safe place. They were following the social distancing guidelines. They were wearing masks. In the Catholic churches, they said you couldn't sing in mass,
But you can do the responses.
What
is that?
Yeah, I don't know, but you're going to have some people emailing you. But
can you get COVID from responses or just melodies?
I don't know. Well, which research are we looking at here?
I don't
know. Let's look.
Let me just say this, because I think transparency is a good thing. I have stopped going to mass because I have to wear a mask, and I absolutely feel like me sitting in mass wearing a mask is saying, God, I don't trust you. I can't do it.
There were comments that people made that clear that we need to be trusting God. I think that what we want to make sure people understand is that this issue, again, going back to the fact that we received over 270 written comments about the survey. So so people really, for whatever reason, felt like they needed to vent. And I saw in the comments, I saw people who were strongly in support of the government shutdown, the lockdown, the way it was handled. There was somebody who said that they take all of their advice from Fauci.
I think that was tongue in cheek. I hope.
Well, I don't know. We don't know.
No, that's true.
We got to look at what's written there, black and white. So if you're the person that submitted that, they said they take all of their guidance from Fauci, Lieutenant Governor Green, and there was Ige. So
well, but and the thing is, what we've been talking about is you can't listen to other people tell you what the facts are, whether it's political leaders, reporters, bloggers, news people on television. You can't believe them anymore because people are, for some reason, feeling quite free to make stuff up. So you have to do what I do, which is go find the actual original piece of paper and read it yourself.
Okay. Well, before we get into the next question, I want to read this comment because I think it's a good encapsulation of everything. It says, churches should have gotten more support to find ways to stay open. They are so critical in times of crisis. And I think that this fact was initially overlooked until suicides began to skyrocket and mental health heavily declined. And at least some of the churches awoke from their stupor. So I think that really does say that churches are very, very essential. And I think that's a good comment and true.
And one of the comments was, I'm grateful our church had implemented much of the precautions to keep our church open and compliant with most of the health rules.
Exactly.
That seemed to be kind of echoed over and over and over. And now with hindsight, we can look at it and say, for the next time, what are we going to do next time? How are we going to approach being told we can't go to congregation meetings,
that's a question.
Because the scripture is very clear. Don't forsake the assembly of the saints. There's something that happens there that's not on TV. When you watch it on TV, it is not the same.
Yes. Okay. So question number 5.
Let me read the question and you do the
Okay.
answer.
All right.
Did you attend church service during the past year?
I loved this. And actually, out of all the questions, I was really looking forward to the responses of this one the best. Okay, so the first answer.
So the first answer is yes, every week without fail in person.
113 people, or 27% without fail over the last year. I give you guys kudos, man. That's awesome.
So on cross-examination, this person would have to answer me this. When the churches were prohibited from having service, you went to service by yourself?
Well, there were a couple of churches, as you well know,
that's why I want to cross-examine them.
To shut down.
That's why, because you without fail, that should have been 0. When I saw these questions, I was anticipating nobody was going to claim that happened.
I don't know, 27%.
More
Jim.
than 1/4 of the people.
Well, here we go.
Now that brings into question the veracity of the rest of the answers.
Okay. Oh, you're done. You're done. Okay. So how about online?
Okay. So yes, every week without fail online.
So that was 53 people, or 13%.
Yeah. And that I would have expected to have the other 113.
And that's where I fit. I was doing that. Okay. So how about the next one?
Yes, every week without fail, using a combination of in-person and online.
Now this one should be the highest.
It should.
And it is.
Yep.
So 146 people, or 35%, did the combination. So probably in the very beginning, as you know, some churches, the big churches, were able to go live, pretty quick because they already had that. Some churches had to learn for the first time how to do technology.
Some of them were really bad. I watched some funny ones.
Oh my God, we should do a show just on the bloopers on those early days.
And I want to go back to the first answers, because to be fair, in my profession, I ask people questions all the time, and people receive a question in a framework in their own mind. So I think it's quite fair that the 113 people that said they went every week without fail in person were automatically taking out the weeks where they weren't allowed to go.
Well, either that or remember, the definition of church isn't just a building, right? So maybe their church was the beach for that
Remember
one week
when we couldn't leave our home?
Oh, yes. I remember those. Okay, so let's move to the rest of these.
The next one is, yes, at least twice a month, either in person or online.
Okay, and that was 29 people, 7%.
Next, yes, at least once a month, either in person or online.
And that was 9 people or 2%.
Honestly, as much as I could, but not very consistently.
Okay, somebody did not like these last 3 ways that I worded this. But again, I want to say that I came up with this because this is what people were saying to me over the past year. So I didn't just pull this out of the hat, right? So read that again.
Honestly, which, by the way, I think implies in the prior questions you weren't expecting honesty.
Okay, yes. I will
honestly,
accept that.
as much as I could, but not very consistently.
And that was 26 people or 6%.
And then the next one is, don't tell my pastor, but hardly ever.
Okay, I heard that from quite a number of people. So 11 people, 3%.
And the last is, can I skip this question? No, I didn't.
Okay, and that actually 35 people or 8% didn't. What was interesting in the comments, Jim, is a lot of people said they switched churches. Did you notice that?
I did. And there is something the human spirit needs that happens at a worship service. And if you recognize spiritually that you need it, you will go somewhere where you get it. All right. You're watching this show, Faith in Politics, on Carlo TV, and you're listening on K-Light, and we will be right back.
Hey, I'm Tim Che. I'm the director of Interview with the Antichrist.
Riots and anarchy continue to spread across America as the world descends into chaos 3 years after millions disappear.
We're having a premiere Friday, April 30th at 6:30 p.m. Doors open at 6.
Peaceful protesting against horrible locusts in London. God help us.
To those who want to turn this into something.
It happened so suddenly. This man came to power.
And shh, keep it quiet. But if you say Carlo TV, we'll get you in. Okay, limit 4 guests. No children, no infants, please. You're going to love the film. It's an end times film, and it's one of our best reviewed films ever. So come Friday, April 30th, 6:30 p.m., and say Carlo TV.
We have a mission here at Carlo TV. We continue to be the only local Christ-centered media outlet in Hawaii. God has planted this station to nourish believers and to harvest souls for eternity. It's a calling we hold dear, and today we need your help. Partner with us as we continue to create original local programs.
We're so very grateful for that whole journey.
Walking down to our story room.
Oh my God.
So it's where the state cannot tell the church how to run their services, what songs to sing.
Showcase solid biblical teaching.
We reach more people in one day with the broadcast of the gospel.
It's music to God's ears.
Improve our infrastructure and influence social media. In these dark and disruptive times, there's never been a greater need to be rooted in God's Word. The Carlo plant has been a sustaining food in Hawaii for centuries, and Carlo TV aims to bring much-needed spiritual nutrition to these islands. Are you willing to labor with us for Hawaii, for your ohana, for the next generation? Go to carlotv.com and partner with us today.
Aloha and welcome back to Faith in Politics. And you're listening on K-Light Radio and you're watching on Carlo TV. So, Jim, as we tie all of this together, I thought what might be kind of fun for this last segment is to share some of the interesting comments.
There were a lot of them.
There were a lot. And again, they
were wide, varied, and interesting.
Very interesting. And it is interesting. I did get some partisan comments from both sides.
You mean political?
Yes.
Okay.
On the questions. You know, on one side of the aisle, they felt like I was leading. people in this and that. This
I thought you meant Republican and Democrat.
Well, that too.
Okay.
Yeah. So, they thought that I was maybe providing a survey that could be hurtful or that it's going to just tear the community up more. One comment said that I was providing misinformation by doing this. And that wasn't a comment that is there. It's a comment I got after the survey was, because we started releasing, right? As we're doing the show, I'm releasing just that portion of the survey. And then as of today, when you go on the website, Hawaii Family Forum, you can see the full survey and I'm releasing everything. And, I'm hopeful that people will be able to use this as a tool, Jim, to see where people are concerned. People took time in the comments to write about their fears.
So did we decide we're going to put all the comments in too?
I'm going to put all the comments in. I am making a couple of...
some things were kind of personal.
Yeah, and some people identified themselves by mistake, So those kind of things I'm going to remove because it is an anonymous survey. I don't want anybody... I can't...
Some of the people appear to be your friends.
Well, yeah, because they say, hey, Eva. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know who you are. I mean, obviously. But, okay, so let's talk about some of the interesting comments we had. And I'll give you the first.
Okay, so the questions, if we remember the prior episodes, one of them was, how did your legislature do in terms of dealing with COVID? And so I'm envisioning this person having gone through the whole survey, and that was one of the questions, and then they got to their pastors and their churches, and then they were given the opportunity to put a comment in. This was their comment. It just struck me as odd. I really cannot remember if our state legislature did anything about the pandemic. And that was true because they didn't. But that was such an odd place to go after all those questions to what you don't remember.
Well, I think as people were answering the questions, I think there was somebody in there that said you should have asked this, or so I guess people's thought process, were going as they were answering the questions.
Well, what the pastors always say is if it wasn't for the people, church would be great.
Yep. So I thought this one was interesting. It says, I am angry. We are led by people who go with the flow and disregard our constitutional rights. Citizens are treated like children. We are brainwashed by the media, politicians, etc. Unscrupulous people are out to profit immeasurably at the expense of our freedom, livelihood, health, economy, future well-being, but more importantly, our right to worship as we please.
And prior to today's show, a person with that opinion could, in the community of ideas, be canceled by a bully that disagrees with them. But hopefully that's not going to happen anymore.
Yes.
Now, here's the interesting thing. Can I share an opposite comment by somebody else?
Absolutely.
So we had that one, and we have this one. I believe that the vaccine should be mandatory at this time due to the danger of the pandemic. I do not like that it would have been mandatory, but people have been selfish in choices of activities to the detriment of others. I know that taking the vaccine will never be mandatory due to the freedoms, but that it infringes upon, and counting upon people to do the right thing to protect all is a long shot. Most people are vigilant, but selfishness runs rampant. Look at the many non-mask wearers who are completely fine not listening to our mandate about mask wearing. By the way, are the tourists informed about our mask mandate? On the news, there are many in Waikiki walking around without a mask. I don't like having to wear it all the time outdoors, but I'm at the point that I want to wear it to protect myself from those who don't care. It's been frustrating being diligent about taking care to wear a mask, social distance, and sanitize while others don't. Period. Exclamation point.
You know what, Jim? As we've progressed over this last year, I have heard people say stuff like that, like in the shopping malls or whatever, right? Watching other people who strongly feel like they don't need to wear a mask or they shouldn't be forced to wear a mask. We've seen confrontations of people who have gone into stores without a mask, right? I mean, this is happening across our nation.
But what's interesting is your person and my person receive information completely differently because they're basing their comment on the information they previously received, right? Your person is saying, some things are true and some things aren't true. And this person is saying it's all true. which is interesting.
Which is good, because that brings this next comment that I think speaks for a lot of people. And this one says, I am so tired of this. One time I am afraid, and the next time I want to just forget and go out again. This is so depressing. I am a caregiver for my husband, and I have to be careful for his sake.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people are tired of this. I hear that over and over. I'm so done with this. I'm done.
And that's why
I'm over it.
I go to the trust question. I think the way this pandemic was handled globally, including in the United States, including in the state of Hawaii, including on Oahu by government leaders, has greatly destroyed the people's trust in them. And that's a shame, because our form of government is called by consent of the governed, and trust is required to give consent.
Another comment I want to share, because this one I think speaks to me, because I think, again, it was anonymous, but I think I know who this person is that did this survey, because as you know, I've labored with the disability community because of their opposition to assisted suicide.
And there are several people that we know well.
And several we know well. And so somebody wrote, it pains me that the disability community has all but been forgotten by the state and city leaders. And it is true that although I'm sure the state has done some things for the disability community during this lockdown, when you lock down a city and you lock down services,
which means tell people don't leave your home.
Yes. And the disability community, they need help.
Absolutely.
I mean, the community is important to them, and not just for their physical needs, for their mental needs. And actually that goes for everybody, right? I mean, it's important we stay connected.
It's a spiritual thing.
It's a spiritual thing. So for us in the faith-based community, being able to worship is huge, right? Yep. So do you have any other thoughts you'd like to share?
Yeah. And this is for me to tie everything we've been talking about today together. One person said, if only they, which means the other people, if only they would look at all the science, not just what fits their narrative. And that's the problem. We're in these two competing groups that can't look at the actual facts without all the fluff from the opinion givers.
Well, we appreciate that you took your time to spend this hour with us. You, as always, we're grateful to Carlo TV for their partnership to make this happen. And we just love that K-Light Radio allows us to use this beautiful studio. And so if you want to partner with us to make this show continue, please visit carlotv.com and find out how you can partner. What is it you can do? We really do need everybody in the community to rise up and give their support of this program. And the way that you can do it is by writing a check. And you can call Carlo TV with the number on the bottom of the screen if you want more information. We also want you to support K-Light Radio. And so go to K-Light Radio and find out how you can support them. And as always, we share our heart with you for faith, family, and freedom. And this is Faith in Politics. Mahalo, everybody.
Aloha.